All right, you guys already know I gotta watch this one. I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm not a fan of Hogan. I used to be because of music, but screw Hogan. All right, the lies and destroy
Any
legendary
other
wrestler.
sport, because not only does it require
You
you
got
to be a
booed.
world-class athlete, it also requires you to be a professional pretender. The WWE and adjacent organizations are essentially an action-packed reality TV show, with
Yes, it is.
scripted monologues, pre-planned match results, and wrestlers acting as larger-than-life heroes or ruthless supervillains. Terry Jean Bollea played the character of Hulk Hogan, an all-American gladiator who could destroy any man, no matter how big or strong. To say he was a superstar is an understatement. For the better part of a decade, he was the face of the entire industry. Now, being a celebrity is already going to create ego problems. It's hard to remain humble and honest when people treat you as larger than life. But with Hogan, it goes a step further. Most method actors work on a role for a few years maximum, and then they are able to go back to real life or transition to a new film role. But Hulk Hogan has played the same exact character for 35 years. Every match he wrestled to every word he spoke was a carefully crafted novel from a team of writers shaping the public's perception.
The character of Hulk Hogan is impeccable. It always has been. There are no holes in his character at all.
Unfortunately, every part of his life that he could not control with his team of writers came crashing down. From ruthless cheating on his wife with his daughter's best friend, to getting caught admitting to being a full-blown racist, to nearly having his entire legacy erased from the history books. Hulk Hogan got so caught up in his endless lies that it destroyed his reality. This is how it happened. Terry was raised in Tampa, Florida, where he started watching professional wrestling on TV after school, admiring the brute force he'd see on screen. Although he enjoyed the spectacle, Terry was still focusing on high school baseball. He often talks about how he was on his way to making it big, that is, until his body reached its limit.
I was scouted in 10th and 11th grade by the Cincinnati Reds and New York Yankees. I pitched and played third base, and a guy stepped outside the box and he hit the ball in the handle. And as the ball dribbled down to third base line, I picked it up and I threw it underhanded to first base, and I broke that cap off my elbow. They put a cast on my arm and that cap went back on, but after that, my pitching arm was screwed from third base. I didn't have the same arm.
Since Hogan became such a superstar, one would assume that there would be some sort of confirmation from the Yankees or Reds that they were once scouting the wrestling phenom. However, there is no proof that that ever happened. It became a theme in Hogan's life to embellish or exaggerate stories, so much so that people stopped believing any word he says. One of his favorite stories is how he
It's like that one actor who believes he's an actual martial artist, but he's like a fraud.
almost played bass guitar for Metallica. After his baseball career came to a screeching halt, Terry decided to pursue music, spending a decade playing fretless bass guitar in several Florida-based rock bands. By 1976, he formed a band called Ruckus with 2 local musicians. He even claimed he was so good, one of the most legendary rock bands of all time recruited him. I used to be a session musician before I was a wrestler. I played bass guitar. I was big pals with Lars Ulrich, and he asked me if I wanted to play bass with Metallica in their early days, but it didn't work out. Just a few days after Hogan said this, Lars Ulrich went on the Howard Stern show and said that he has a photographic memory, but I certainly have no recollection of doing anything with, quote, Hulk Hogan, end quote. After Lars called out Hogan's lie, the Hulk drastically changed his story.
Metallica needed a bass player, and I, oh my God, would I love to be in Metallica, so I put the word out everywhere. I wanted to get an audition to be in Metallica. Never heard from them either.
Perhaps Hogan became accustomed to scripting his persona in his career that he tried to boost up his real-life story a bit. Sure.
Yeah. Bro, I don't know why he does his little lies. It makes no sense, but things get worse and worse and worse, especially when he backstabbed the wrestlers back in the day because of his career.
Sure, this could be seen as harmless exaggerations, but this bad habit would slowly leak into almost every facet of his life, and eventually lead to his demise. Have you ever Googled your name and seen yourself on one of those strange at Hector's Gym in Tampa, Florida? He encountered many wrestlers from the Florida region who frequented the bars where he performed. I started playing in this kick-ass rock and roll band, and a couple wrestlers came into the show. Then a couple of nights later, even more came in, because they had told each other that there was this kick-ass band, and because there was a kick-ass band, there was all this hot running around, you know? All of a sudden, before I knew it, there was a bunch of wrestlers at our gigs. These were regional wrestlers who would wrestle in Tampa, Miami, Orlando, and Tallahassee, so they'd come back to Tampa every night, where we would all be playing till 3 a.m. in the morning. Notable attendees included Jack and Gerald Briscoe, better known as the Briscoe Brothers, a tag team wrestling duo in the area. In 1976, the Briscoe brothers encouraged Hogan to pursue wrestling after being impressed by his growing physical stature, and in 1977, Hogan embarked on his rookie season as a wrestler.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from your boss that you have to finish before the big meeting starts in 10 minutes.
I swear to God, every Google freaking ad I get nowadays is AI. I get it. I'm replaceable. Leave me alone.
Said in his 2010 autobiography that Elvis Presley was a huge fan of his at the time, but Elvis died 11 days after Hogan's first match in 1977, and that match was not in Memphis, Tennessee, which is where Elvis was.
I don't know why would he lie about that.
Terry didn't actually commit to a full-blown wrestling career until 1979 when he adopted the stage name Terry the Hulk Boulder. Spending his early years on the independent circuit, he then...
And so... I believe at the time he was copying a wrestler called Terry. Let me see if I can find it real quick. So he was copying his wrestler called Terry Funk. He was like the guy back in the day. Oh no, what was the other guy? Let's see, hold up. Was it Terry Funk? No, it was No, I think I think it was Terry Funk. I think that's the wrestler he copied in the beginning of his career.
Appeared in various wrestling promotions,
including a brief stint in the
WWF, before settling in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he made a name for himself.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes again. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday comes again.
And while Hogan was growing his brand in East Asia, he claimed in his autobiography, My Life Outside the Ring, that his work in the region allowed him to wrestle 400 days per year. If I say I wrestled 400 days a year, it's no exaggeration. My years were actually longer than 365 days. There were times when I'd fly back and forth to Japan twice a week just to wrestle. Now, it was nothing to wrestle in Madison Square Garden one day, then fly all the way to the Egg Dome in Tokyo the same day, because you'd gain 14 hours and then fly back to the West Coast and so on. So I could wrestle in Japan today and then fly back across the international date line and land in another town yesterday. I was constantly adding days to my years. Now, there are no records of Hogan wrestling in Madison Square Garden one day and then the Egg Dome the day after. Now, it's unclear if Hogan was serious or just trying to make a silly exaggeration, but his wrestling 400 days per year has become a meme to poke fun at his relentless lies. Regardless, it's safe to say that Hogan was a huge star in the wrestling world. At the time, the United States had defined territories that different wrestling federations controlled. Hogan was one of the few who wrestled in basically every territory. He was able to help draw new interest locally and sell tickets since he was a national star. He said in his autobiography that he was the first wrestler to walk out to the ring to music, revolutionizing the sport. But Sergeant Slaughter, Chris Colt, Mildred Burke, and wrestlers from the 50s and 60s had entrance music. However, major changes were on the horizon. Vince McMahon bought the WWF from his father, the territory that controlled the northeast sector of the US. Vince was planning an all-out takeover of the entire industry. His vision was to sign the best and most popular wrestlers exclusively to the WWF, so they could not wrestle.
Oh yeah, what was that actor that is a fake martial artist? I forgot his name.
In any other promotion but his own. Although this is extreme.
Oh wait, it was, you know what I just realized? Another wrestler was Billy Graham. It was Terry Funk and Billy Graham, where Hogan copied from his early career. That's what he copied from.
Extremely common today. Back then, it was seen as a merciless business practice intended to dismantle the wrestling industry and create one giant monopoly. And as we all know, It worked. But after Hogan's acting role in Rocky III, he became a mainstream superstar. And at that moment, Vince McMahon knew who the face of the WWF was going to be. Terry established himself as a fan favorite, and within 1 month, he won his first WWF World Heavyweight Championship at Madison Square Garden. From there, his takeover
was insane, dude. Merchandise was insane.
Was in full effect. He was headlining WWF events every night to sold-out crowds across the Northeast, continuing to amplify his superstardom.
I feel no pain, I fear no man.
In his interviews, Hogan often referred to his fans as Hulkamaniacs and introduced his 3 demandments: training, saying prayers, and eating vitamins. Over time, he added a 4th demandment: believing in oneself. Hulk was larger than life, physically and metaphorically. He stood at a staggering 6'7" tall and weighed 295 pounds with 24-inch biceps, all while containing a superstar aura that he described as being similar to a cult leader.
You know anything about Hulkamania?
Hulkamania?
Hulkamania.
If you want me to. What is Hulkamania?
Well, Hulkamania is the newest thing, Johnny. It's the thing that is sweeping the country. I'm sure some of these guys over here might know about it. It's like a new cult, and it's like follow the leader. Everybody does what the Hulkster does. It's like truth, justice, and the Hulk Hogan way.
Hogan's image was plastered on action figures, lunchboxes, and video games, making him a pop culture phenomenon and one of the most recognizable figures worldwide. He was named the most requested celebrity of the 1980s for the Make-A-Wish Foundation's children's charity, being featured on the covers of Sports Illustrated, TV Guide, and People magazine, while also having his own CBA Saturday morning cartoon titled Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. He was officially the face of professional wrestling. Hogan and Vince McMahon developed a very close relationship. Even though Vince was a ruthless businessman who often took advantage of his wrestlers, Hogan seemed to protect the interests of the corrupt CEO rather than his fellow co-workers. At least that's what...
Oh, here it is, guys. I'm glad he's back in WWE, by the way. He has a Legends contract. That means he's going to get paid a salary now again with like being a legendary wrestler. Oh man, it's because back then was insane with like the scheduling and the training, everything. Like it was destroying people's bodies and stuff like that. Nowadays, more relaxed. Now they're doing tape shows when they really need to. Now, no more live shows. For example, for Christmas, New Year, or some stuff like that. Or there are wrestlers that take days off throughout the week. They don't have to do the live shows. They don't have to work like almost the whole year. They take more days off now. It's more relaxed compared to how it was a couple years ago. But he was gonna change that all the way back in the day, but Hulk Hogan stopped all of that pretty much, and he delayed everything.
WWE Hall of Famer Jesse Ventura says,
"You and Hulk were once good friends.
Yeah.
What's the likelihood of that ever being repaired?"
Never.
What?
Can't trust him. And he's the one that ratted me to Vince when I tried to unionize. I found that out under federal deposition when Vince was put under sworn, and he didn't hesitate at all. I told my lawyer the story, and in deposition you can ask about anything. And so I wanted to know who ratted me in the locker room, because there were no agents, no one from the office was in there when I did it. So it had to be one of the boys. And when my attorney said, Mr. McMahon, has there ever been a union in wrestling? And Vince said, no. He said, has anyone ever tried to? And Vince said, well, I think Jesse Ventura spouted his mouth off about it once before. My attorney said, did you hear Mr. Ventura? No. Well, then how do you know he did? With no hesitation, Vince went, Hulk Hogan told me. And I didn't show any emotion, but I almost tipped over in the chair because he was my friend. And I thought, but then I understand why. When we went to court, I saw in WrestleMania 3, Hogan got paid more than all of us combined. Now, why would he want a union when he's getting taken care of?
Then again, many wrestlers of this era, like Greg Valentine, say he was a great guy.
When I was wrestling in Florida, when he was still playing the guitar at a band, I met him there. So we always, he's a mellow guy, and he likes to smoke the and he don't like getting drunk and crazy and all that. Just a real nice guy, Florida boy, down to earth. So I got along with that type. And my wife, Julie, who I'm still married to now, my wife, beautiful wife, Julie, and Linda became really good friends. So.
Want to make the switch to Shopify?
Yeah, that
Here's
guy's a
how to do
simp.
it in a few easy steps.
Sorry.
Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com and
Nothing could slow down Hogan's dominance, and his reckless actions would lead to his first major controversy. During an interview in 1985, he choked out TV personality Richard Belzer, causing him to lose consciousness. Then he dropped his unconscious body to the floor, where he split his head wide open and required an immediate hospital visit, where he received 9 stitches.
Called a front chin lock. How about it, T?
Keep like that for a little while.
Hogan must have forgotten that he wasn't in a scripted wrestling match. Putting a man half his size in a chokehold was incredibly dangerous, and it's surprising he only needed a few stitches. Belzer ultimately sued Hogan and they settled out of court, but the incident arguably just made Hogan seem more lethal, adding to his brand of being an unstoppable warrior. Then something extremely rare happened. Hogan lost a match. He lost the WWF World Heavyweight Championship to Andre the Giant. At this point, it was only the second time he ever lost. Even though technically he didn't get legally pinned, the referee just wasn't paying attention to him lifting his shoulder. Plus, this was, of course, pre-planned to make Hogan look like the underdog for their match at WrestleMania 3, where Terry wrote the entire script for the match himself.
In WrestleMania 3 at the Pontiac Silverdome, did you call it or did he call it?
I wrote it all down on a piece of paper for Vince, and Vince gave it to him.
Oh, now, hold on now. So you were afraid. You would testify now that, I mean, you physically were afraid of him because, I mean, he...
No, I wasn't afraid of him, but he was in just so much pain that, we really weren't sure. Vince came to me the night before. We weren't sure the way the finish was going. So I said, let me write down a plan A Hulk Hogan match. It'll blow the roof down out of the place. So Vince took out his big yellow pad, his big yellow notebook pad, and I wrote down center of the ring. He pushes me, or I push him. I can't remember. I go. He throws a punch. I block it. 1, 2, 3 punches. Go to pick him up. I fall backwards. First time I've ever done it in my life.
Hogan finished the match.
That is true. That is true, guys. Andre Giant was always in pain. Always in pain, dude. It was it's very tragic, especially how he died and all that. But it's like yeah, he was always in pain.
By picking up the 6'10", 400 or 500 something pound beast and slammed him.
Everybody knocks me for this on the internet, and everybody always just says BS. But the honest to God's truth is they weighed him in. They always said he was the 500-pound Andre the Giant. But we weighed him at the scales at the baggage claim in Detroit. When we came to Detroit, he was about 697 because he'd gained a bunch of weight, and he had that huge back surgery in England. He was in a ton of pain.
The match was watched by 33 million live viewers, making it the most watched wrestling match in history still to this day. However, this was Hulk Hogan's peak, and his dominance as the #1 wrestler in sports entertainment was coming to a close. He was able to generate excitement for a few more years when he teamed up with WWF's second biggest talent, Macho Man Randy Savage, to form the Mega Powers. The legendary tag team was a fan-favorite partnership built on mutual respect after Hogan saved Savage from a beatdown, leading to their iconic handshake that symbolized their unity. But in the early 90s, the tides began to turn against Hogan and wrestling as a whole, as Vince McMahon and the WWF were being investigated for the rampant steroid usage throughout the business.
One of these little dudes out there that's been training, saying his prayers, and eating his vitamins, someday he's gonna knock me off.
He is the king of the ring, but many former wrestlers say it wasn't prayers and vitamins that made Hulk Hogan a giant in the
A lot of wrestlers steroids back in the day
have injected Hulk Hogan with anabolic steroids.
Did the biggest star in pro wrestling get to the top by using dangerous drugs?
Although wrestling is scripted, to say that it's fake is definitely disrespectful. It's no secret that wrestlers regularly face extreme physical demands, enduring injuries and chronic pain due to the rigorous nature of their back-breaking profession. The combination of intense training, frequent matches, and the expectation to maintain peak performance levels, it leaves little time for proper recovery. And as a result, illicit substances are sometimes misused as a quick solution to manage pain, allowing athletes to continue competing. Not to mention the aesthetic benefits. The bigger, stronger, and more muscular you looked, the more potential you had to become a star. The number of pills that were being
because back in the day, no one really liked smaller wrestlers. You know, the Jeff Hardys, I don't want to say that name, Eddie Guerrero, stuff like that. No one back in the day wanted those type of wrestlers, or that's what the company thought. McMahon thought nobody wanted these type of wrestlers, CM Punk, stuff like that, right? But throughout time, all that changed. You know, they're big muscular, because again, all these big muscular guys, their lives right now as old guys, they're like, a lot of them suffer because of the steroid use. A lot of them suffer their bodies where Diamond Dallas Page, sorry. He's the one who's like bringing them back and getting more healthier right now, but their bodies are destroyed because of these steroid uses, man.
Handed out at the WWE at the time was mind-boggling. Following the increasingly thorough coverage of adverse effects, steroids were prohibited in the United States after the passing of the Anabolic Control Act of 1990, meaning trafficking steroids is handled similarly to trafficking cocaine or LSD. As the act went into full effect, the athletic industry as a whole was being viewed through a different lens, because performance-enhancing drugs took away from the fairness of the game. But wrestling is an interesting point of contention because the matches were scripted and pre-planned. Therefore, it's kind of impossible to have an unfair competitive edge. There was a doctor that would meet us in Hershey Park,
but it could be dangerous, right? When you have too much strength, it could actually be dangerous. You could actually hurt the other wrestlers too as well.
Or 7 suitcases full of pills and steroids. That was a big foul up because you could go in there and ask him for Valium, Halcyon, steroids, pain pills, whatever your heart desired. And that alleged doctor was George T. Zahorian, who got a job as a ringside doctor for the WWF in 1984. 5 years later, the FBI started quietly investigating the doctor's questionable business practices. The feds subpoenaed Zahorian's FedEx records, uncovering regular shipments to Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, and other wrestlers on Vince's payroll. And this was enough evidence to indict Zahorian on 15 counts of distributing controlled substances.
Roddy Piper was so
all
good,
of a sudden
man.
it would be
He
a
was the greatest
line
heel
that
of all
would
time.
form to see
One of the
Dr.
greats.
Zaharian. Well, after a while, it was known by everyone what was going on. That's all these guys were getting their stuff.
They lined up.
Absolutely lined up.
To get steroids.
Yeah, sure.
I believe that
100%. Roddy Piper, Rick the Model Martel, Dangerous Dan Spivey, and Flying Brian Blair were all subpoenaed to testify at the trial. They all appeared, except for Hogan, who was excused, even though Dr. Zahorian stated that he had known and successfully treated him for a serious steroid abuse problem.
Hogan went to the media to set the record straight that he has used steroids, but never abused them.
So basically, I was insulted when basically the inferences or the speculation said, well, all you gotta do is take a pill or take a shot in the butt every day to get to look like Hulk Hogan. And basically, I've trained 20 years. I'm 38, 37. I'll be 38 in a couple months. Oh my God, why did I say that? But I've trained 20 years, 2 hours a day to look like I do. But the things that I am not is I'm not a steroid abuser, and I do not use steroids. But there's a situation where steroids, Hulk Hogan, and my private physicians have something all in common, and these are the situations. When I first won the world title in '83, I was wrestling almost 300 days a year, and on 2 or 3 different occasions, I got hurt in the ring. I had to make a decision of going into surgery, have my back, my deltoid, and my bicep cut and reattached with staples, or do the sports therapy route. And if I was to get cut on with a knife and all this type of thing, basically I'd be in a sling, and a year later, well, we don't know what's going to happen to your career. And at that time, I didn't have any money. So basically, I made the right decision. And that sports therapy involved prescription drugs by my physician that I trusted, legal prescription drugs. And those involved basic anti-inflammatories and
He's lying his ass off.
which is a form of a steroid.
Right.
And on 3 different occasions, I had the same type muscle injuries. That is the extent of Hulk Hogan's steroid use.
His story seems believable, but his stuttering and pattern of lying about small details in his life made people think that this was just another tale. And they were right, because in 1994, he testified in court detailing nearly 14 years of steroid abuse. Mr. Balea said that steroid use was fairly common among wrestlers. He said he would call Mr. McMahon's executive secretary and ask her to place an order for me with Dr. Zahorian, but he believed it was legal because he had a prescription for it. Zahorian was ultimately found guilty for providing steroids to countless athletes, but Vince McMahon was acquitted of these charges because they didn't have enough evidence to prove that he was involved in these transactions or that he was forcing wrestlers to take steroids. Maven, who was an active WWE wrestler from 2001 to 2005, said that steroid use in the company did not change after this trial.
It was just regular. It was more hidden.
Of the wrestlers do you think were taking steroids during this?
I'm doing good. We're watching the lives of this short legendary wrestler Hulk Hogan. He got extremely booed recent WWE Raw show recently. Also, we're working on our cat adventures again. We're doing an outfitted version of outfits. So each outfit of characters or of cats gonna have something new. So we're doing a shark version, and we're also doing a samurai helmet version as well. This is just a little. We're probably gonna make this into also keychains too, or stickers in the future. Maybe even a T-shirt design. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's just a new series I brought back. I did it with the Penguin Aztec. Yo, what up, Tank? YouTube algorithm has recommended me. Oh, thank you, appreciate that sub. But off to bed. I have a great night. Thank you for stopping by. If you want to check out more of my artwork, it's on my community tabs and also shorts. If you don't have that much time, they're all in there. If you guys want to check out more of my long form content, it's right on my videos channel. But thank you, appreciate it. Thank you. But yeah, so that's what we're doing right now. We're just working on a short kit. Let me know what you. I'm trying to add some more Easter eggs. So if you guys got ideas for Easter eggs, let me know for like Ocean. Thank you for the follow. Thank you. I gotta fix my Bluetooth, by the way. It's always like sometimes, but yeah.
This time, 100%.
No, not 100. I'd say it was probably, 85 or 90. Easy.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not drug testing because it's not an actual sport.
No, they drug tested us.
They drug tested you?
Absolutely.
Really?
Here's how it happened. I still remember getting called into the office and pulling up a piece of paper and going, Maven,
Use Evernote to remember everything.
Stupid
No
Evernote.
details small. Perfect for exam prep. Capture.
I swear to God.
Positive on.
I get a lot of these AI are freaking ass, man. Maybe somewhere, a cute shark. Shart. You forgot the H. Potatoes. Just kidding. Yeah, maybe. So I added my penguin. That's an Easter egg from my previous adventure series. That's an Easter egg. I added the shark word. I added some what do you call it? Some waves for the ocean and some of my doodles. And then we also have my high. That's usually a most obvious one. Can't type. And then okay, maybe a little shark. Okay. I'll think about it. Let's see what we can do. Little Giver, welcome back. We added some more stuff since you've been gone. Not that much, but we're figuring it out. We're watching video of the life that destroyed the legendary wrestler Hulk Hogan.
Winstrol, Deca, a little bit of marijuana.
Oh, I know who I can reference.
And some painkillers. Don't let it become a habit.
That was that.
And out the door I went. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a different world.
So they knew about it, they just didn't care.
Regardless, after the trial, Hogan's reputation to the public was tarnished. It didn't quite hit the same to portray him as this illustrious American hero inside the ring. Vince McMahon said his career was finished, and the WWF needed younger, fresher, and edgier talent to maintain interest in the sport. Hogan left professional wrestling to pursue a career in film and television. He already had a few movie roles at this point, such as Rip in No Holds Barred and Shep Ramsey in Suburban Commando, but in 1993, we saw his next big motion picture, Mr. Nanny. This film.
Oh my God, he took in so many embarrassing roles, man. Back in the day, do you guys remember the Three Ninjas? I'm freaking old, man.
The film was about a former professional wrestler who was hired to be the nanny for a couple of bratty kids.
Now he's got to bring them back.
Oh, wait, Batista did that same thing, I believe, or The Rock.
He's Mr. Nanny.
As you can imagine, this film, and all his other films, were abysmal box office failures. But lucky for him, he was being scouted by one of the WWF's biggest competitors, World Championship Wrestling, and they were going to save his career. WCW's executive vice president, Eric Bischoff, declared open war on the WWF and used financial backing from Ted Turner to aggressively recruit and sign former high-profile WWF wrestlers such as Ric Flair, Flair, Ricky Steamboat, and Dusty Rhodes. But they knew Hulk Hogan would drastically increase their visibility, and in 1994, he signed with WCW.
I told ya, Hulkamania was gonna run wild in the WCW, brother. Look at all the Hulkamaniacs.
Bischoff offered Hogan total creative control over his character,
I'm pretty sure
in addition
Stone Cold
to
did
a
too.
multi-year,
I believe The Rock was always WWE bound because his dad was always in WWE. Stone Cold, however, he was in WCW. Same thing with like Big Show, and I believe Undertaker was a part of WWE or WCW. Sorry. So there's actually some wrestlers started from WCW that went to WWE and actually became bigger. Yeah, Stone Cold was one of them. We had hair too. You guys remember Stone Cold with hair?
$5 million contract at a time where just a few of the top wrestlers were maybe receiving around $1 million a year. Giving this much power to Hogan would eventually be the demise of the brand. While Hogan has denied ever using his creative control in the WCW, former employees have claimed otherwise. Apparently, at the Bash at the Beach match in 1994, legendary wrestling writer Vince Russo wrote that Hogan was going to lose his match to Ric Flair, to which Hogan initially agreed with, but then allegedly changed his mind at the last minute. Hogan's attorney sent a fax to WCW's office after the closing hours on Friday. The pay-per-view is Sunday. Sends the fax to the office after closing hours stating Hulk Hogan was going to play his creative control card and was not going to do what was written. Friday after the office closes and everybody is on their way to the Bash at the Beach.
And you know the messed up part that actually did not help WCW part? He used this again, his claws again, his power. When Sting was so over, the Sting should have won, right? He's like a legendary wrestler. And Hogan changed his mind and said, no, it's not the time yet. Because he did that, and the NWO got played out, WCW started losing viewers, and it was not just because of that, it was more obviously other things. But Hulk Hogan pretty much ruined WCW. He was a big part of why it got ruined.
So nobody saw this fax prior to the show. Russo's recollection seems to make sense because in the final moments of the match, Ric Flair is seen hitting Hogan, to which Hogan is not reacting, only for him to put his finishing move on Flair and pin him for the title. This is one small example of what many believe to be Hogan's abuse of power in the WCW, a man who is so enthralled in his own ego that he believes his character and persona is more important than the entire 80-man roster. He even scripted himself to beat every top wrestler on the roster and made himself the champion for 469 days, the longest in WCW history. Or maybe he's just that dominant. Likely sensing that the people were tired of the Hulkamania shtick for the past 2 decades, he finally turned heel, which is a wrestling term for becoming an anti-hero or villain. He formed the legendary trio New World.
What do you guys think? You think this is enough for I kind of want to paint this, by the way, too. You guys think this is enough? I think this is enough. I don't think we want to go too crazy with it because we're gonna add shading to the colors. We're gonna add detail too as well. I think we're good. I think we're good, right? I think we are good with this, honestly. Right? I think we're gonna start in the samurai version now, guys. Right? Oh, should I add it? I forgot to tell. Maybe I got to tell somehow.
World Order or
I don't think so, 'cause
NWO
inside
alongside
the suit,
Kevin Nash and
he has a
Scott
towel already.
Hall. He dropped
Yeah,
the
then we're good.
bright yellow and red and opted for all black. He even dyed
Alright.
his beard black. NWO was a drastic change not just for Hogan, but all of wrestling. The gritty anti-establishment and gang-like persona brought attitude to wrestling, removing the glitz and glam of the heroic athletes of the 80s. They were selling
Which I will say this, they gave birth to the Attitude, so that's one thing WCW did good, by the way.
millions.
That's one thing that they did good. Here's the thing with these companies sometimes. They go up, they're always the top, right? They come out with some great stuff. But they do it too much, they go downhill and destroy the company. The good thing about the WWE, they sometimes take some time to get there, but the reason why they go slow sometimes is so they don't burn everybody out with the same story or the same characters or play some characters. Now that has happened still in WWE. It still happens, but not as much compared to WCW because Hulk Hogan was always a guy on top, even as a heel, even though he was like a bad heel. I mean, he was a good heel, but like he was like the guy all the time. People got bored. For example, surprisingly, it was still working for Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns was also, people were getting tired of him too as well. People were getting tired of Roman Reigns being the top guy because he was always winning his matches at that point, and he wasn't doing a lot of matches either. So they were already like Roman Reigns. He was getting to a point where like they were gonna go down on him now, where like they're gonna boo him, they're gonna start booing him even further more than they were because he's a heel. But Roman Reigns was at that point too, because he was like for 4 years the champion, but he only wrestled for like 32 matches or something like that, or something longer than that. But because he can't wrestle that much. But yeah, it started and it's still. I'm telling you right now, there's gonna be a breaking point with the Samoan family. I'm telling you right now, because the Samoan family are controlling WWE so much right now. There's gonna be a big backlash of that. Because here's an example. Recently, there was a match between the women's champion between Nia Jax and one of the Usos. Why I forgot her name. Oh my god, I forgot her name. Naomi. There you go. And so they're supposed to be the main event because it's a world championship match, right? Well, it didn't trend that way. They had there was a second match before the main event, which was just a regular match between the Samoans, aka Solo, or it was Jacob Fatu and Jey Uso or something like that. And it was just a regular match, which that could have been easily a begin match and also maybe like second before the end of the match. But they were the main event. Now I'm telling you right now, I'm calling it right now. People are gonna start looking at the Samoan family and start getting annoyed. Be like, yo, we don't like they don't have to be like the main storyline every single time. Let the other wrestlers shine. You know what I mean? Like let the other wrestlers let them shine. And yeah, it's just annoying. So I'm just calling it right now. I'm literally just calling it right now. And yeah, that's just my prediction that there's gonna be a big ass backlash between the Samoan family in the future. Add me in there. Add you where, Gator.
Millions of dollars in merchandise and genuinely stealing viewership from the WWF. Hogan's vision for NWO nearly put WCW in the #1 spot, but then many believe Hogan drove it into the ground.
Yes,
Everything
he did.
that has a meteoric rise needs to fall, whether it be in the real world or scripted television. But Hogan did not want the NWO to fall, and many have accused him of never passing the torch. He seemingly never wanted to let anyone beat him, which does add up considering he only has 14 clean losses in his entire wrestling career. Instead of scripting the downfall of NWO when it got stale, they did the opposite. They expanded, making the once tight-knit anti-establishment crew seem like a bloated club that anyone could join.
And that's when it got ruined. That's like DX worked for some time because it was just 3 people first. It was Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Chyna. And then added X-Pac and the Road Dogs, right? Which was, in total, it was 6 people. That was good enough. They didn't went too crazy. They had their tag team. They had the woman wrestler. And she left eventually, and she was with Eddie Guerrero at one point. So kind of take her out a little bit. So they had their tag team, their mid-carder, which was X-Pac, and they added the 2 top carders, which was Triple H and Shawn Michaels. Can you add me in there? Add you where? Oh, on the shark design?
Then they relentlessly pursued this confusing storyline where there was a division within NWO where Hogan was the leader of NWO Hollywood and Kevin Nash was the head of NWO Wolfpack. And then the entirety of WCW storylines were centered around this uninteresting internal battle of a gang. Many speculate that it was all just Hogan.
Which I'm telling you right now, that's the same thing was going on with the Bloodline. They're doing the same storyline that killed WCW in WWE right now, called the Bloodline Wars right now. I am telling you right now, it could become a big backlash for the whole what do you call it? The whole Samoan family.
Hogan trying to keep the entirety of WCW around his brand. And to make it worse for them, the WWF developed some of the most electrifying and entertaining characters and storylines in the late 90s with legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, and many more. But the WCW's credibility was permanently damaged after the infamous incident called the Finger of Doom. They heavily marketed and hyped up the incredible battle of Hogan versus Nash for the World Heavyweight title. Two anti-heroes who created a movement and now were fighting to decide who gets control of the whole thing. The match began and Hogan gave a light poke to Nash's chest, then he pinned him, and they get up and hug, laughing in the faces of viewers for thinking that NWO could be divided.
Dumb.
They thought this would make them look just as badass and anti-establishment when they debuted in 1996, but it did the opposite. Fans thought it was pathetic, bad storytelling, and just boring, and the WWF took over. And yet, even after ratings were in the toilet, that still did not stop Hulk from abusing his creative control. Hogan was scheduled to challenge Jeff Jarrett for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. However, before the match, Hogan was involved in a backstage dispute with scriptwriter Vince Russo, while Russo wanted Jarrett to come out.
We're making the same thing, but with a samurai helmet, with cat version. We're doing it. We're gonna add a bunch of stuff in the helmet of the samurai. And we're gonna add a lot of Easter eggs on the Samurai too as well.
On top,
I'm just placing the character right now.
Himself, which resulted in one of the few moments when a wrestler intentionally and obviously went off script. Russo instructed Jarrett to walk in the ring, lie down, not fight back, and let Hogan pin him to become the world champion. In the past, Hogan had forced many wrestlers to metaphorically lie down for him,
I'll try
but he was shocked when someone so blatantly did it in front of the entire world. And after Hogan left the ring with the title, Russo returned to express what just happened, and this wasn't scripted. He was telling the truth.
All day long, I'm playing politics with Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan tonight wants to play his creative control card. And to Hulk Hogan, that meant that tonight in the middle of this ring, when he knew it was bullshit, he beats Jeff Jarrett. Well, guess what? Hogan got his wish. Hogan got his belt and he went the hell home, and I promise everybody else I'll go in the goddamn grave. You will never see that piece of shit again.
And after that moment, Hogan was never seen in the WCW ever again. After Russo's rant, the fans realized just how much control Hogan had. He could decide what would happen with his own character and everyone else's, without anyone being able to stop him. In response to this rant, Hogan filed a defamation lawsuit against Russo, but he had absolutely no case whatsoever, and it was dismissed in 2002. Hogan's creative control became such a widely discussed issue that a long-standing meme holds in the wrestling community, quoting Hogan as saying, "That's not gonna work for me, brother." And although we don't know for certain he ever said this, it seems extremely likely. In February of 2002, Hogan made his return to the WWF as a heel at the No Way Out pay-per-view. He showed up as the leader of the original NWO with Hall and Nash, as the three immediately started causing problems with the company's top superstars, The Rock and Stone Cold. The Rock challenged Hollywood Hogan to a match at WrestleMania 18,
which Stone Cold got pissed off.
Icon, and put
what do you call it? Stone Cold actually got pissed off at the storyline, because he felt he deserved that match compared to The Rock. Because actually, Stone Cold was bigger than The Rock. Around that time too. The Rock was, bro. That time, it was literally like so many wrestlers were like up here, like literally, especially Rock and Stone Cold, right? But yeah, that's why I think the Stone Cold got pissed off because of that.
Put on one of the greatest matches in WWE,
which it was a good match,
and to many people's surprise, Hulk.
Drive your
I remember that.
And make sure
he actually lost. It's crazy, right?
Get started with Amazon shipping.
Oh my god. He deserves it. But remember, The Rock is part of a legacy too. These family politics have been going on for a very, very long time. For an extremely long time. He's part of the Samoan family too, as well. And so that's why The Rock had a lot more push, a lot more chances compared to other wrestlers, even though he was garbage, right, when he started. But he started getting he got more chances and started getting it right. The same thing happened with Roman Reigns. He was garbage. He was garbage on the mic, and he was not that great of a wrestler. but he got so many chances to get better and better compared to other wrestlers. That's the reason why he went over compared to every wrestler. Because he got way more chances, even though they were booing him off. They booed him on the WrestleMania. They booed him on Royal Rumble. They booed him everywhere. Not because he was a heel. He was actually the face of the company, but they were booing him off because he was really bad as a mic guy and all that. And he had so many years until after he started doing the tribal chief thing. That's when things started turning around for him. It took him 10 plus years to get it right. It took John Cena to only took 1 to 2 years to get it right. It took other wrestlers 1 year to less than a year to get it right. It took Roman Reigns 10 years to get it right. Compared to other wrestlers who were let go, if they had more chances, they would have built up a career even bigger. Could have been bigger than Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, or something like that, right? Cody Rhodes got it right away, even though he has a dynasty with family, right? With the Rhodes family, he got it right away. He was like a mid-carder going into the main eventer, but they want to push him there, so he left the company, became a main eventer, come back, became a main eventer again. But he got it right in a less than a year or a couple of years or something like that. Compared to Roman Reigns, 10 years. It took him 10 years to get it right.
He was 50 years old, a questionable businessman, but undeniably a legend. Plus, he simply did not fit in with the New Age wrestlers, but instead, he hung around and had a very lackluster exit from the company. Hogan fought the likes of Kurt Angle, teamed up, helped elevate in newcomer Brock Lesnar, and even went toe-to-toe with Vince McMahon at WrestleMania 19, where the two old guys actually put on a pretty good match. From there, Hogan had a stint where he wrestled as a masked superhero called Mr. America, who loosely resembled Captain America. Mr. America was seemingly an alter ego as he used the same entrance theme, signature gestures, moves, and phrases as Hogan, despite repeatedly denying being Hulk Hogan. This storyline was terrible. During his last appearance on SmackDown, Mr. America unmasked to show the fans he was indeed Hogan, putting his finger on his lips and telling the fans to keep quiet, as if they didn't already know. It was later revealed that Hogan was just unhappy with his salary at the time and quit. But while Hogan's wrestling career was starting to slow down, the buzz surrounding his personal life was just picking up. His first major success outside of wrestling came in 2005 with the launch of his VH1 reality TV show, Hogan Knows Best, which can we all acknowledge that the name of this show couldn't be any more obviously made up by Terry himself. Although the early 2000s were famous for giving every random celebrity or family their own TV show, there were a few diamonds in the rough. Considering Hogan Knows Best ran for 4 seasons, also producing a 2-season spin-off for his daughter called Brooke Knows Best, it's safe to say that the fans liked it. It's also safe to say that this show led to the destruction of Hogan's family. Perhaps Terry needed to exist in a scripted environment since he spent the last 30 years working with Vince McMahon and teams of writers controlling his words and outcomes. Reality TV operates the same exact way, where their daily lives and conversations are portrayed as this found footage caught on camera type reality, when it's all producers coming up with storylines and feeding people information to create drama and interest. His kids are portrayed as lazy and incompetent, very stereotypical rich kids living the high life with their dad's millions. His daughter, Brooke, is an aspiring singer and songwriter, trying to capitalize on the blonde bombshell aesthetic pioneered by Britney Spears. Unfortunately, she just made horrible music, so it didn't really work out. His son, Nick, seems to be in the process of discovering who he is, what he's interested in, and what type of career he wants to pursue. Tragically, one night in 2007, just 16 days after his 4th speeding ticket in 11 months, the 17-year-old was street racing in his Toyota Supra at top speeds before fishtailing and crashing.
You guys know all the cliches and baited like things you've seen in Hollywood and movies and guys? Yeah, it's because of this right here. You know, like the whole like give the image, be a goody. You're the perfect son. You're perfect this, that kind of stuff, right? What's the mistakes here and there? But behind the scenes, he's an asshole. He drinks. He drives like car racing. Like, oh my god, it's the typical rich spoiled brat cliche, bro.
Crashing into a tree. Nick's passenger, 22-year-old John Graziano, suffered severe brain damage that has left him permanently unable to speak, walk, or eat. While Hogan called his son in jail, the conversation was recorded, as all of them are. Transcripts of the conversation were revealed that many interpret as Hogan blaming the victim for this situation. Well, I don't know what type of person John was, what he did to get himself in this situation. I know he was pretty aggressive and used to yell at people and used to do stuff, but for some reason, man, God laid some heavy stuff on that kid, man. I don't know what he was into.
He was blaming
Turn your smartphone into your pocket.
Over
AI
his son's
filmmaker.
speeding.
Meet the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro.
In Hogan Knows Best final season, they display the beginning of what would ultimately be the destruction of Terry and Linda's marriage.
I can't live like this, Terry.
Every day, it's drama. It's just
In
ridiculous.
case you can't tell, I've had it, okay?
Linda has verbally suggested maybe we should just be divorced.
So the words were spoken? Yeah. It's just to the point where we cannot keep doing this.
I really don't care, because I sure as hell am not going to live like this anymore with you.
Which
And to no
she
surprise, they
predicted
did
it.
end up getting a divorce after the show concluded. Hogan's darkest year was in 2007, when he wasn't wrestling or shooting his reality
Was it the
TV
leak-
show.
the leak
It's almost
thing?
like the moment his every move wasn't being scripted or choreographed, he collapsed. The final nail in the coffin was when Linda discovered that Terry cheated on her with their daughter's best friend,
Wow.
Christian Plant. My relationship
Wow.
with Terry began at a time when Terry and Linda privately knew their marriage was ending, she told the
Wow.
tabloid. She had left him already,
The
although no
cliche,
official
bro.
papers had been filed. Christian tried to apologize to Brooke as she felt immense guilt. In a MySpace post, Brooke responded, "When your best friend and one of your closest family members that you have loved unconditionally since your first day on this earth betray you together, you could maybe find it in yourself to
Fuck.
forgive one day, but you will never forget the hurt they caused."
Imagine you found out your best friend had sex with your dad, bruh.
You. As if it couldn't get any weirder, Linda, Hogan's ex-wife, started dating her son's 19-year-old friend, Charlie Hill, and ended up marrying him. While Hogan may
Wow.
have felt his worst days were behind him, and
No,
he
it
could
got
finally
worse.
focus on repairing the mistakes and lies he told to his family and friends, it would
No,
all
it
come
got
back to
worse.
haunt him again in 2012 when a tape between Hogan and Heather Clem surfaced online. In October 2012, Gawker, a celebrity blog site, released a short clip of the encounter. The site claimed they received the tape from an anonymous source who wanted no payment nor credit. Their only
Damn.
request was that we watch it. Hogan
Must be
later
the-
told
must be the wife-
NBC's
ex-wife
Today
or something.
Show that the tape happened during a low point in his failing marriage to Linda Hogan. The tape was filmed in 2006, but Linda filed for divorce the following year. Things were bottomed out completely, Hogan said. "I was with some friends, and I made a wrong choice, and now all of a sudden it surfaces, over 6 years later, and it's just appalling." While most people saw this as another reflection of Hogan's bad character, it was a little deeper than what we saw on the surface. The tape was filmed in 2006, around the final taping of Hogan Knows Best. He was living at his friend Bubba's house on the brink of divorce and dealing with the darkest moment of his life.
People don't realize is that my best friend, Hulk Hogan, lived with me at his lowest point of his life in 2007. He was suicidal. I had to take a gun away from him at one time. He was going to kill himself. And we were coming home from the dollhouse one night. My wife and I had a semi-open relation. I mean, we were. I wouldn't say we were necessarily in the lifestyle, but I'm not a jealous guy. I've become callous.
serious,
So
dude?
my best friend, my wife, is not that big a deal to me.
What?
And so
you guys were married. You guys were.
What the? What a. All right. If he doesn't think it's a big deal, all right. I'm not gonna judge. I am not gonna judge. I am not gonna judge here. All right, do you, bro?
Yeah, we were married, and so we're driving home from the dollhouse, and my wife calls me, and Hogan's down. He's going through the worst divorce ever, and I just told her, I said, "Hey, Heather, have a little sexy outfit on, and take care of my boy when we get home." And it was pretty much that. It was pretty much that simple.
Bubba claims that the tape was left on his work desk, an employee stole it and tried to extort Hogan for $1 million before ultimately leaking it to Gawker. But there isn't really much evidence to back this story, and it seemed like it could have been Bubba and Clem trying to set up their friend. As we know, this was the second time Hogan got caught cheating on his wife, so while nobody was claiming that he is a saint, most people agreed that leaking his tape was a violation of his privacy, which is why on October 15th, 2012, Hogan filed a lawsuit against Bubba and Heather Clem for invading his privacy, having recorded the encounter without his knowledge.
Do you have any idea before the sexual encounter happened?
Imagine your quote-unquote best friend let you have sex with the wife, right? They leak a sex tape of you having sex with your best friend's wife, and because they're all, I guess in their case, they want to make you feel better because you're divorced, right? And then now you're suing them, and it's just, oh my god, it's so muddy, bro. I mean, because obviously that is wrong to release something like that without the other person's consent, even though the other person is a piece of shit. It is still wrong. That's not okay to do.
Exactly what's going to be filmed.
A settlement was reached on October 29th with Clem making a public apology to Hogan. Hogan later sued Gawker Media for posting the 90-second clip of the tape. And on March 18th, 2016, the jury delivered a verdict in favor of Hogan. In compensatory damages, Hogan was awarded $115 million, $55 million for economic harm, and $60 million for emotional distress. The jury later awarded him an additional $25 million in punitive damages. And while this might actually be seen as a huge win for Hogan, more shameful things from his past were coming to light, but this next one would nearly ruin his legacy permanently. More found footage of Hogan was released, but this time he was making racist comments regarding his daughter Brooke dating black men.
I've been trying to help her. I've done everything fucking with him day and night on the radio like a jackass, and he's working with me to make it work. He goes that you really shouldn't call every day and do the shit I do. The Southeast record, this black billionaire guy.
To this day, people bring this up still.
Anybody's done. Okay, he had one song after 10 months to shoot it back up and back and back. Still, and momentum, but I try to be the realist, and this is your option. You got a better option. Said you can get signed with fucking. He's gonna put $500 million. How you going right now? There's nothing else. We're doing the best we can.
Again, this is not the real design yet, guys. We're messing around with the idea right now.
Where they've been hanging out, I caught them holding hands together on tour. They were getting close. I knew before I'm giving a shit. I'm not a double standard type guy. I'm a racist to a point. Yeah. You know,
I'm racist to a point, bro. Bro.
The thing is, now they start doing these nasty emails, so someone will arrive at a relationship, and so now don't ever want to talk to anybody. No.
In July of 2015, National Enquirer and Radar Online were the first media outlets to publicize the situation. The recordings disappointed many within the wrestling community,
100%.
forcing Hogan to come forward and address his racist behavior. 8 years ago, I used offensive language during a conversation. It was unacceptable for me to have used that offensive language. There is no excuse for it, and I apologize for having done it, Hogan said in a statement to People. This is not who I am. I believe very strongly that every person in the world is important and should not be treated differently based on race, gender, orientation, religious beliefs, or otherwise. This is obviously Hogan's biggest lie to date. Like, it's one thing to argue that something is out of context, or maybe something is a microaggression, but here this guy is 60-something years old, dropping hard R's and literally saying out of his mouth, "I'm a racist." It couldn't have been any more clear.
Yeah,
The
that's like,
WWE
bro.
was feeling more pressure than ever to respond to the actions of their once golden boy. And they did. By scrubbing Hulk Hogan from the WWE's website, the company removed almost all references to Hogan, including his listing as a judge for the
but
reality
they brought him
competition
back,
show
guys.
Tough
Because-
Enough.
because
They
of his
removed
beard.
his merchandise from the WWE shop and his entry from its WWE Hall of Fame page. Hogan tried to reframe the narrative, with his lawyer claiming that Hogan chose to resign. However, WWE clarified the company terminated their contract with Hogan, stating that they are committed to embracing and celebrating individuals from all backgrounds.
Which is a lie.
In response to the
It didn't make-
controversy,
it didn't make
Mattel
sense for
stopped
as a
producing
business.
Hulk Hogan's action figures, while Hogan's merchandise
I'm gonna be completely honest. If they weren't like gonna lose money, he would still be with the company, or he would have been still with the company with merch and all that still. It all comes down to money, guys.
merchandise was removed from online stores of Target, Toys R Us, and Walmart. Hogan tried to add more context as to the reason why he decided to use these racist remarks in a carefully scripted interview with Good Morning America.
Are you a racist?
No, I'm not. I'm not a racist. I never should have said what I said. It was wrong. I'm embarrassed by it. But a lot of people need to realize that you inherit things from your environment. And where I grew up was South Tampa, and it was a really rough neighborhood, very low income. And all my friends, we greeted each other saying that word. The word was just thrown around like it was nothing.
Is it fair to say that you inherited a racial bias?
I would say that is very fair. The atmosphere, the environment I grew up in, all my
I will say this, guys. I experienced something what he's talking about. Where it was at TwitchCon, by the way. It was around. I want to say one of my first TwitchCons, I think 2019 or something like that, or even earlier than that. And there was a group of people, aka 2 people in that group, who used the term the N word like it was nothing. The hard R, not the A, the hard R. And I was like, holy shit, there are people like that. I actually experienced people actually like that, where they say that word like it's nothing. So, I'm not defending this guy. He's a piece of shit. But I actually, like again, because again, it's wrong. Especially when you're this old, you're like, bro, this is wrong. What the fuck am I saying this? Right? To a certain point. Like, what the fuck? And so, but I'm just saying, like, I actually experienced people talking like that. I never talked to them ever again for obvious reasons, but it's like I actually experienced it. Like, I didn't say anything because I was just like it was awkward and all that. And then also I wanted pizza, and so after the pizza I left.
white friends, all my black friends.
Oh my god, here we go with the black and white. Oh
Hear
my
the word
god.
on a daily basis. when they
Oh
greet,
my
"Good morning."
god.
That's what they say to me. Good morning, so and so. I think that was part of the culture and the environment I grew up in.
Even though Hogan was ostracized from the wrestling community, many wrestlers continued to speak in support of him. Virgil commented, "Hogan has never given me a reason to believe he is a racist," while Kamala added, "I do not think Hogan meant harm by saying that. Hogan is my brother until he decides not to be." Dwayne Johnson initially expressed his disappointment, claiming to have known Hulk Hogan for a lot of years, assuring,
Yeah, I understand it a bit. I grew up with a family where the large portion of them was racist. Took a while to understand which words were okay and which wasn't. It's like entire religion. Yeah, exactly. But it's like at this point, how old was Hulk Hogan at that point? 60 years old. You know what I mean? At that point, it's like, yeah, you're not supposed to say that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And this is what I mean. I'm not. And I want to put this out there. I'm not cancel culture. I'm not Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, I understand that people learn certain slang and words when they're younger, and sometimes it sticks with them, right? But they grew out of it. A lot of people grew out of that. Especially, remember, like back in the day in Call of Duty days, people say some worst shit ever back in the day, guys. And a lot of people grew out of it because we realized it was wrong. A lot of us said bad things when we're in the Call of Duty days. If you're playing Call of Duty, I'm not saying you said all those words, but you said at least one of those words, right? And but like again, once you grow older, you realize, damn, I messed up. That's just like that's not a right thing to say, right? But you grow out of it for the most part. You learn to like grow out of it and all that kind of stuff. So at a point when he was growing up, it's like people already like not saying that kind of thing, right? That I know of. But that's what I'm saying. It's like, but like I understand that some people need more time to grow out of it. Especially that's why like when people are bringing up of people saying the worst shit ever on Twitter like 10 years ago, I don't take that personally, or people should not take that personally from my opinion, because that's 10, 12 years ago. A person could change in 5 years, in a year to 10 years, especially. So that's why that's cancel culture, because like, bro, you're not letting the person grow. A lot of us learn slang when we're younger. A lot of us learn certain things, but we're dumb as F. We're stupid. We're dumb. We're dumb teenagers, especially around that time. We're edgy. And it's not okay to say that, but at least let them have a chance to grow out of it. Let me make it more extreme. There's some people that grew up with the KKK stuff, right? And it's horrible, it's horrendous stuff, right? Like, it's disgusting stuff. But some of them actually grew up and saw the error of their ways and got away from that shit, right? And I'm just saying, I'm just want to end it like this. We should let people have a chance to change. That's all. Like, instead of just jumping on them. Hold up. But with Hogan's case, he was 60 years old at this point. He was 60 years old at this point, man. Or even older at that point, right? I understand him saying it probably in the back in the day, which is very wrong to say, by the way. Because we show a lot of the older ages around that time said it and stuff. And it's not okay, right? Obviously, it's not okay. But I understand if they grew up with that as a slang. I get it. But he had plenty of time to grow out of that. To be like, yo, this is wrong. This is not okay to do. That's all I want to say.
I'd not know him to be a racist before strangely describing his racist rant as merely trash talk. WWE Hall of Famer Booker T addressed it as well.
Hulk Hogan, especially speaking right now.
And, he's an ambassador. He's a great ambassador for the game. He should be a part of it. Yes.
Well, with the whole, past N-word stuff and everything else, I know in a report it was like,
hey,
people deserve second chances.
Everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah.
Life's all about it.
Even Steve Harvey spoke out in support for Hogan.
I have never used the word in a comedy special because it's not acceptable. Now, do I forgive him? Yeah. Do I think his career should be ruined because of it? No, I don't. Because if we're ruining people's career for that word right there, ain't none of us gonna be working.
Although wrestling fans were entirely fed up with Hogan's nonsense, it seemed like his celebrity friends and wrestling peers respected him enough to defend him publicly. On July 15th, 2018, Hogan was reinstated into the WWE Hall of Fame. He made his on-screen return 4 months later as the host of WWE's Crown Jewel pay-per-view event. In the following months, Hogan continued appearing on TV and would be inducted into the Hall of Fame a second time as a member of NWO.
Until recently, guys.
Along with stablemates Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Sean Waltman. Now reaching 70 years old, it seems like Hogan is finally living the retired life, spending most of his days in Clearwater Beach, Florida with his new wife and focusing on new entrepreneurial endeavors like his Hogan's Hangout Bar and Grill and promoting his Real American Beer. There is no doubt that Hulk Hogan transformed wrestling. He is an icon who helped grow the sport to a level that was unimaginable, which has paved the way for many careers after him. And while most wrestlers are willing to compromise their creative vision or sacrifice the good of their character for the good of others, it seemed like Hogan could never do that. He wanted to remain the all-American hero, number one wrestler for as long as possible. However, you could argue that him refusing to get put over is what maintained his legacy. Think of all the guys who just let the writers determine their future, never let them fulfill their true potential only for them to be forgotten. Some look at the deterioration of Hogan's personal life as some sort of godlike punishment for his decades of abusing his power. It's hard to give Terry the benefit of the doubt because, well, he has lied so much about his life, his past, even extremely small details that can easily be fact-checked. It's hard to know who Terry Palaio
Maybe we could have the alligator right here.
Maybe he doesn't
like a little gator right here.
However, one thing does seem certain about him. He may not be the best friend, he may not be the role model husband, he may not be a trustworthy businessman, but he does seem to care deeply about his fans.
Yeah, but it's just amazing how the fans have made.
Yeah, I don't know if Practice and See know this, but a lot of people don't care about Hogan anymore. I'll put it right now. Hogan got booed of the first episode of Netflix. Watch. Hulk Hogan booed. Got booed on Raw Netflix. Look, where's the clip? There it is.
Well, let me tell you something, brother.
And he was getting booed.
You know something, Maniacs? I've been in this business for over 40 years, and the greatest part of my life was being part of this great WWE. Like, ooh, yeah. And the WWE is tag teamed up with Hulk.
Yeah, so he got booed. Like, he got booed off, bro. Yeah, Hogan and Jimmy, but damn, they really don't like you, brother. Yeah, so he got booed. I don't think I would want to fame like that. So many people looking at you. Eventually, they will find some dirt on you to pull up. Yeah, that's what it's the curse about being a content creator or being a public person. Because anything you do, anything you say, if you get one person extremely mad, they'll look at your past and expose that past. That's how it works in the industry. Now, some people could get there are certain people that could get away with it, especially if you're an asshole content creator or personality, you could get away with it, right? Because you're already an asshole. Like for me, I'm an asshole to a certain extent, right? I am not a goody person, right? I do my best I can as a human being, right? We all make mistakes. I don't like, you know what I mean? But it's like, I would never present myself as a goody person. I will never do that because to do that, to hold that image, it's like comes with extreme consequences. You get extreme success with that, but the extreme consequences it's like if they find anything that people disagree with, they will tear you apart. For example, look at Dream and all the Minecrafters, by the way. And Tobo is like a literally a guy who does not have his own opinion, by the way. I believe. But a lot of these Minecrafters, all of them who literally says something off script, they will gutter you. They'll attack you like a motherfudger, bro. Because the whole presentation of them being a goody content creators, and that is a curse. That is not a good thing. Especially because it could backfire hard if you do a mistake in the future, which it will eventually happen. Happens to all of us. To me, it hasn't yet because I'm not a big content creator, but who the hell knows? It's gonna happen. I don't know, but yeah, there's a whole lot of booing. Yeah, people just boo the hell out of him, dude. They don't want him, especially because Jesse Ventura. Ever since Jesse Ventura got back with the Legend contract and has spoken about it more often, it got more mainstream in the wrestling world. So that's why a lot of people do not like Hulk Hogan anymore. So yeah, So people do not like him. Like people booed him out. Like it was literally 9 days ago. It wasn't like that super long time. But yeah, Kevin Nash reacts to him getting booed. Gives thoughts on Hogan getting booed. Like Kevin Nash is also a guy who goes back and forth. Like you like him, you hate him, like him, I hate him, like I hate him. Was part of Triple H strategy plan to get more mainstream attention, which was not. It was not actually planned for him getting booed, and the reason why is because he was promoting his beer. So, yeah, that's the reason why it's like no, that's not what it was. I'm pretty sure people were shocked, like damn. But good video overall. Good video.